Good evening. My name is Scott Miller and I am the co-chair of the Academic Affairs Committee of Student Council. Welcome to Who's Connecting Politics. Thank you for joining us tonight for this event. Before we start our discussion with the organizations here tonight, I want to tell you a little bit about Who's Connecting. Who's Connecting is an initiative of UVA Student Council, Open Grounds, and the Leadership Network designed to promote open discussions around relevant contemporary topics between leaders at the university. These discussions will take the form of intra- and interdisciplinary seminar series, which will include student leaders of organizations on grounds and sometimes professors or community members. These roundtable seminars will aim to produce fruitful discussion and positive ideas. The first seminar series is called Who's Connecting Politics. This is a 4-part seminar series facilitating discussion between student leaders, such as these student leaders, from political organizations at the university. You are watching our first seminar on domestic policy. The questions that will be asked to our participants tonight were either asked by students or created by our committee members. They will create good ground for discussion and political discourse related to this year's election, and will offer organizations the opportunity to voice how they believe students should take these issues and vote on these issues. Five participants representing their organizations have joined us tonight. The first is Mr. Alex Preve from the University Democrats. The University Democrats is a contracted independent organization at the University of Virginia dedicated to developing progressive young leaders and getting Democratic candidates elected to office at every level. Their membership meets weekly to learn how to get those candidates elected, as well as learn about various issues, causes, and groups. They're about campaigning, community service, productive debate, and having fun. The second person who has joined us tonight is Mr. Matt Wortman from the College Republicans. The College Republicans chapter at the University of Virginia is a political organization dedicated to promoting Republican principles, electing Republican officials, and providing fun and entertaining speakers, debates, and parties, and more. Mr. Dylan Brewer is the third person who has joined us from the Young Americans for Liberty. Young Americans for Liberty is a student activist group with the goal of promoting classic liberal and libertarian viewpoints. Efforts will be made to host informational events, hold activist campaigns, and promote membership in libertarian organizations. The third person who has joined us tonight is Ms. Christina Hadford from Who's for Life. Who's for Life seeks to promote the dignity of human life from conception until natural death. They promote awareness of all aspects of abortion issues at UVA and in the Charlottesville community through speakers, flyers, tabling on the lawn, and tabling on the lawn. Who's for Life volunteers for and financially endorses Charlottesville pregnancy centers, which offer free services to pregnant women in need. The last person who has joined us tonight is Ms. Elizabeth Dobbins from the Feminist Legal Forum. The Feminist Legal Forum is dedicated to feminist discussion and awareness. The Feminist Legal Forum provides a place for law students to examine legal issues which affect women, clarify what feminist means to young lawyers, and unite to eradicate sexism in the legal profession and within the law school. I will now hand it off to our moderator, Mr. George Wong. Mr. Wong is a co-chair of the Student Council's Legislative Affairs Committee. He's a 4th year in the college studying foreign affairs. As co-chair of the Legislative Affairs, he hopes to expand civic engagement and education amongst the student body and improve lobbying efforts on behalf of the student body for the Virginia General Assembly. In addition to his involvements in the Student Council, George is also a counselor for the University Judiciary Committee and an opinion editor for the Cavalier Daily. George, it's all yours.
Thank you, Scott. All right. So the format of the panel discussion will be as this. Panelists will have 1 minute 30 to state their positions on any particular question after I give the question, and then following that, anyone has 1 minute to give a rebuttal or any sort of a follow-up discussion. Now, to get started, though economic issues have dominated this election cycle, social issues still resonate with voters. So to start off our discussion tonight, discuss, based on your personal and your organization's views, whether gay marriage should be legalized.
Well, I'll start off, George, if you'd like. I'd like to start with a quote by U.S. Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren, who wrote for the majority in Loving versus Virginia, which is a case that ruled that a ban on interracial marriage was unconstitutional And Justice Warren said that the freedom to marry has long been recognized as one of the vital personal rights essential to the orderly pursuit of happiness by free men. At the Feminist Legal Forum, we believe that gay marriage rights is a matter of sexism and also is a matter of justice. Now, as far as sexism goes, strict gender roles and hierarchical, constructed roles in marriage that a heterosexual marriage, and that being the only legally recognized marriage, reinforces this idea of sexism in that in order to maintain the status quo, these gender roles economically, culturally, and politically are reinforced and maintained by punishing this gender nonconformity, such as homosexuality. Homophobia thus promotes sexism, which is a fear therein of being labeled homosexual as something that is negative and not something that should be not something that should be celebrated. Now, gay marriage as a matter of justice is an issue that benefits all Americans because it increases equality and tolerance across the board. There are many rights and benefits that are denied to same-sex couples because they're not able to legally marry, and these include the right to receive spousal support in the event of a divorce, alimony and an equitable distribution of property, the right to receive additional Social Security benefits based on a spouse's contribution, the right for a non-American spouse to qualify as an immediate relative and gain American citizenship under federal law, a multitude of inheritance rights, including property and inheriting the property of a spouse upon death, the right to 59 distinct income tax deductions, credits, and exemptions, and numerous rights relating to involuntary hospitalization of a spouse. Now, gay marriage, staying illegal and not recognized under federal law, denies couples these rights purely on the basis of their sexual orientation. And we believe that this is directly analogous to the ban on interracial marriage that was overturned in Loving. And true to Justice Warren's view, marriage is a fundamental right that should be enjoyed as a matter of sexism, combating sexism, and a matter of fundamental justice, irregardless of your sexual orientation.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting this forum. I'm glad to be here. The College Republicans at UVA are glad to be here as well, participating. I will most likely be representing the views of Governor Romney and Paul Ryan tonight. My personal interjections may come in, and I'll be sure to note when I'm doing so. It is the position of the Romney-Ryan ticket this year to uphold the values of traditional marriage. However, I've been on the campaign trail since end of July, early August, and I've got to be frank, I mean, I have yet to hear one person say that gay marriage is their number one issue, or even frankly their number two issue in this campaign. I have a friend, personal interjection, I have a friend who is gay, and he voted for Romney-Ryan. And frankly, it's what he told me in my discussions with him was, the LGBT community is hurting in this economy as well. Frankly, 23 million Americans unemployed is just not sustainable, and the LGBT community is not immune to those setbacks that have occurred under this administration. One other thing I would add, and this has not been picked up by the media as much, but the Romney-Ryan ticket has made it very clear that under their administration, they would not move away from the current policy of don't ask, don't tell. The current policy that has been in place under the Obama administration would stay in place under the Romney-Ryan administration. That has not been communicated very well by the media, but that is a position that they hold. Okay, thank you.
I'll respond to that. First of all, I kind of want to repeat what Matt said and thank you guys both for hosting this. It's a great opportunity for all of us. So I kind of want to start out by outlining the president's policies as well, and kind of in contrast to Romney's and Ryan's. As you all probably know, the president is the first sitting president to endorse marriage equality. That has been a very historic landmark for the LGBT community, and one that they are very proud of, and that I'm very proud of, that I support a president who is in support of that. The president's premise behind all of this is that, regarding Don't Ask, Don't Tell, is he promised to repeal it on the campaign trail back in 2008, and he came through on that promise because he believes that your love of your country should determine whether or not you should serve in the military, not who you love. And serving the military is a matter of a selfless pride of country, a selfless commitment to fight for your country, and that it has nothing to do with your personal life, your religion, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation. Those are all outside factors that shouldn't have an influence on whether or not you should serve in the military. The president also, in his administration, has, which also another, I guess the theme here is the media doesn't pick up on some of these things, but he's also implemented practices to ban discrimination based on gender identity in the workplace, and that has been another big key to his administration. So I guess one of the things that I want to stress is that as we're all kind of, the same generation here, the same age, and I think if you look at kind of public opinion and what people are saying around grounds, our generation is much more accepting and tolerant of gay marriage than the older generation. I think that's a fact that we have to come to grips with, and that we're going to have to come to terms with the fact that this is a human rights issue. This is about the right to marry, the notion is that we cannot tell people that marriage between two individuals who happen to be of the same sex, that love somehow isn't as valid as two individuals of a different sex. So I think it's a human rights issue. It's something that's going to come up much more as we progress, and it's something that's our generation is going to have to deal with, and that we're going to have to guarantee that equality for all individuals.
Yeah, I'd like to echo both Matt and Alex in thanking you guys for hosting this. It's a good opportunity to let people hear what the different CIOs have to offer. And I think that what we've heard on both sides is that there are certain ideals that both the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Feminist Legal Forum group want to promote with the government. And we think that with Young Americans for Liberty, we think that the right to marriage and the issue of marriage is not an issue that has to do with government at all. How this is different than what they're saying is that not only is under their position, not only are there benefits for being married, there are also benefits for being married a certain way under the Republican issue. And we think that this is promoting marriage over being single, and it's just a whole other way of enforcing a different social value. And so to truly be consistent, we think that the government has no place within the institution of marriage, and that's between private individuals.
Who's for Life doesn't have an official stance on gay marriage.
Well, with that in mind, I'd like to follow up first with Ms. Dobbins. So you talked about a lot of the denial of benefits and the hardships and the injustices faced by our current ban on homosexual marriage. And you cited Justice Earl Warren to begin your remarks. Would you say that marriage, the right to gay marriage, is a constitutional right?
Yes, George. It is the position of the Feminist Legal Forum that the right to gay marriage is a fundamental right that, while it isn't specifically enumerated in the Constitution, is found in Article 9, for example, where these are fundamental rights that, while not necessarily found in the Bill of Rights, have been recognized as something that derives from your natural rights as a person. And given that the government has granted the right to marry to heterosexual couples, its denial to that same benefit to couples who happen to be homosexual is a denial of their fundamental rights.
Then would you also say that that same constitutional right would extend to relationship pairings and marriage that extend beyond couples, say polygamous marriages?
The Feminist Legal Forum doesn't have a position on polygamous marriages. Now, our society has decided that a marriage between two consenting adults is what it's prepared to legally recognize. So we would extend that to homosexuals, but we don't have a position on a further extension of that.
Thank you. And I wanted to follow up with you, Mr. Whitman. You talked about how this isn't a huge issue, but I think that gay marriage is nonetheless an issue that, especially for our generation, is something that is kind of at the forefront of the social life. And I just kind of wanted to ask, from a more conservative point of view, wouldn't supporting gay marriage be a traditionally socially conservative point of view, in that it supports marriage between two consenting couples as well as supporting the family.
I mean, my initial response is going to be no, just because the Republican position and the Romney-Ryan ticket is that marriage is between one man and one woman. I do agree with Preve that this is, I think, more of a generational issue. And I do agree with him that for younger generations, it's not nearly as big of an issue as it is for older generations. I would just reemphasize my point earlier that I have yet to have one person on the campaign trail bring this up as an issue.
Mr. President, you cited a lot of accomplishments that President Obama has done in this term with regards to expanding rights for gay couples and homosexuals in general. And you noted that President Obama has one statement has evolved on his stance on gay marriage, and now has become the first president to endorse it. How would you reconcile the difference that while Mr. Obama has said that gay marriage is a fundamental right, he has called for a state-by-state approach to legalizing gay marriage, which seems to indicate that it is not a fundamental right, since a fundamental right should be applied nationwide?
Yeah, I think the evolution of the stance that you were alluding to is one that's kind of his generation, which is kind of the middle generation, has kind of undergone that stance as well. I do think the president has never advocated making a constitutional amendment that marriage is between one man and one woman. He hasn't gone that far. So in that sense, I do believe that he is leaving this up to the states, but he's also, in a more general point of view, leaving it up to society, that it's not necessarily something that we have to regulate as a government. It's something that the states, the federal government and the state government should kind of stay out of. The state governments shouldn't. There have been several referendums, as you know, in North Carolina. There was a referendum in 2010 earlier this year about gay marriage. And that's the type of legal framework that we kind of need to stay out of. We need to ensure that this decision, and in that sense, I think we have a lot in common with libertarians, that this decision should be between two individuals, and that it shouldn't be the government dictating who you can and can't marry.
And kind of just a last quick follow-up on Mr. Brewer. You talked about how the government should have nothing to do with marriage. Well, given all the benefits and all the government involved, such as hospital stays, insurance benefits, etc., that are provided and has to do with marriage, how do you propose that government completely just withdraws from marriage?
I don't think that this is something that can be done overnight. Of course, it's going to have to be a process. I think it's in the end it would have to be much more of a social change. The idea that of accepting that marriage is between individuals and has nothing to do with government. I think the first thing that we need to change is changing the idea that the right to marriage was granted by government. The right to marriage was not granted by government. The right to marriage is a natural right that every individual has. And I think that this is something that we need to move away with, and that's the first step towards any policy action, is making a kind of cultural change.